Welcome to another special episode of The Diplomats. And this time, I'm super excited. I've got the scotch in hand and I've lit up an H. Upmann cigar just so I can listen to both Umble the Heap and MaxVax, two of the Nexus server's best diplomats and diplomacy players, talk about a game they played together at the virtual Boston Massacre tournament, which occurred earlier, I believe June 20th. 21st. No, 20th. Sorry, my apologies. Anyways, they will be talking about game one that they played, the very first game with each other, and then it looks like maybe against each other. As always, our podcast is brought to us by diplomacybriefing.com. Umble, before we get into the game and talk to Max, tell us about the briefing.
So Diplomacy Briefing is a weekly email about the board game Diplomacy. It lets everybody know what's going on in the online scene and the face-to-face. So whether that's tournaments or new variants, there's always something in there to keep everybody interested. We include a strategy article every single week by either myself or guest authors or new things that have come in. So it's a great way to keep in the know for everything that's happening. I do that work so that you don't have to. Go to diplomacybriefing.com to sign up. You can do it. Also follow along through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
All right. Thanks, Umble, for that. By the way, any of you who are interested in learning about MaxVax can go to our YouTube page and scroll down to the interview where he gave a very thorough and comprehensive interview about his finals performance in the Nexus tournament, gave you his thinking on diplomacy and how he likes to play and his very good result in that tournament. But Max, since we've talked about the tournament already, tell us about, have you ever participated in a virtual tournament before? How did you approach it? And did you want to change up your style or anything like that? Tell us what you were thinking before you started playing.
Sounds good. Excited to discuss the tournament. Thank you for inviting. I think it was a good experience. However, it is my first tournament in this kind of format, face-to-face or Discord-based. And I do think for a newbie in this format, you kind of need maybe 2 to 3 tournaments to make all the rookie mistakes, which are sort of not, related to the diplomacy itself. It's more like a procedure and interaction related in a limited time frame given for the move. And if I briefly can summarize, my first reaction was that 15 minutes is not enough time if you don't know what you're doing. And if you can look for hours in online map whenever you want, there is no such luxury in this format. I do think it will attract, you guys discussed in a previous podcast and I listened to it. I think you had great points about that this kind of format will allow internet-based players such as myself and others to join without need to travel. And, we should be really mindful about how to sort of attract and keep these new players in this Discord-based format to enrich the community of face-to-face players. I obviously made many mistakes, but I still had a lot of fun, especially in this game we're going to talk about. Second game, I was massacred, but, perhaps someone had to, adhere to the name of the tournament, so I'm okay with that.
Okay, it is called the Massacre, so and it happens to everybody. Let's talk about the game that should be up on the screen here. Now, you two, I don't think have ever played together before in a game. Is that right, both of you guys?
No, No, we've never played together, though. I commented a lot on the Nexus Finals game he was in and really liked his play style, and at least tactically, I really liked what he was doing. And then I heard the interview you did with him, and I liked Max even more. So I had just a lot of respect for how he approached the game and how he thought about it. So when I saw that we were going to be on a board together, I was excited to be able to play a game with him. And, I was hopeful we'd be able to figure something out. I personally naturally like an English-French alliance, but was definitely wanting to explore the possibility of doing it with Germany. I'm always open, but I really was hoping to be able to get that opportunity for us to work together.
And in this game, you played England and Max played Germany, so you're not only on the same board, but you're adjacent powers.
So let me ask Max, what was your general thought when we got placed on the board together?
Well, my general thought is I'm actually very thankful to you to sort of prepping me for the tournament, because, we chatted before the actual event, and also initial phase. You also asked for additional 10 minutes or 15 minutes of Game Master. So if everybody agrees, apparently that's available option. And that was really helpful because, we had couple or maybe even 3 with Turkey players who never played in a tournament before. And so you needed a little bit more time in the beginning to sort of understand and talk to everybody. And so Umble really coached me there in a way, like sort of, this rooms and stuff, how to interact, in, more like procedure related, really, to sort of not waste time, make sure you speak to everybody, things like that. And so I was open, like what Umble, you said. I mean, I probably prefer actually German-France alliance if I'm Germany. And I was open for any alliance. But starting with France, as you can see, he moved to Burgundy with support. And he told me that. And I told him, well, I don't really like it. And so he said, I'm moving there anyway. So that was not a great start for us. And, it sort of started from there.
Tell us about the other players in the game, though. I mean, what's the impression? I mean, Umble, I know you know seemingly everybody. Were there experienced players or newbies, or what did you have?
I didn't know anybody else there at all. So let me go through and think. Italy was definitely new. He was a teenager from Italy, as I recall. This was his first. This was his first tournament. I think it was Italy. I may be wrong, but I thought so. So he was.
Italy. Yeah, he played Italy. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. He was new. I think he was 15 or something like that. And Austria, I don't remember Turkey, but Austria, Russia, and France were all experienced players. It seemed like the people on the live stream, they knew who all 3 of them were. I know the player from France is in the California area, but they were all competent. I didn't have a ton of conversations actually with Austria or Turkey. France was in, Max mentions France. So France goes ahead and moves to Burgundy. And so I reach out to him there in the beginning, and I said, if wanting to work together, I think it would be good for us both to have 5. Will you support me to Belgium? And he was basically very hesitant about doing that. I really thought going into the end of the fall that he was going to go to Belgium, because he didn't say he was, but he was so reluctant to do anything that I thought for sure he was going to do that. But I was pretty confident Max was going to support me there. I got from listening to Max, I think he thinks like I do. You don't just tell lies to tell lies. So I was pretty sure Max was going to support me there. And France surprised me with in the moves he just held, which I think what he was hoping is that we would bounce each other.
Well, we can turn to that. Max, were you worried that France might move to Munich?
Not particularly, because I had a very long conversation with France. So he was honest in the first move. So he declared move to Burgundy. I said I don't like it. He was, keep telling me, I was honest. He did tell me he will bounce me in Belgium. So we agreed to bounce in Belgium. And idea was actually 3 of us will bounce there. That's what he wanted. And then he held. And then, I'm not sure why he held, but I was like maybe 80-90% confident he will not go for Munich that early. So, and basically, I did ask him, can you support me to Belgium? And he said no. So, well, I'm like, okay, great. And so then I obviously provided support for Convoy, just because, obviously I'm not going to bounce England, in this case. And, like Umble said, there's no reason to do that. You can gain an ally versus just bouncing for no reason. I kind of briefly explored 3-build opportunity, but I did not really want it. I was just sort of testing France by asking that.
And why bouncing sweet? Oh, go ahead, Umble. You're going to comment on that.
And that's interesting to me that he said that to you, because he never wanted to set up a bounce with me. He was very coy about what he was going to do. I just assumed he was going to move there. And so I think what he was hoping for, Max, is that you and I would bounce each other, and then he could kind of pick the ally, you know, between me or you, because we would both then be upset with each other.
I agree. And, you know, I mentioned earlier, like move to Burgundy, I understand it's standard, but, you know, if I have options, I will not pick this country as ally who declares move. Yes, you were honest, but if I have other options, I probably will not prefer someone, you know, with such an aggressive move as my ally, especially he's staying there, you know, like, yeah, there's always a chance he will try for Munich this move or next move. So I did not feel very safe with France. He seemed to me like kind of, you know, opportunistic from early on. And so I think I made the right choice. We can talk about next phases and stuff. And
well, you know, Umble, go ahead. But I was going to say, you know, Umble, you say you like to move to Burgundy because you like to be a player in Belgium. He moved to Burgundy to hold. That's sort of the opposite of what I understand you're saying.
Right. I would say personally in this situation, like, I like moving to Belgium, but you've got to do something for somebody if you're going to be there, right? You need to support somebody in. You need to use that unit to build goodwill. And so to just hold kind of, you know, in my mind, it completely undercut the reason to go there. I mean, if you're just going to hold, you should just bounce yourself in Burgundy, you know? There's no reason to move there and make Germany uneasy and try to do some stuff there behind the scenes. So when he held, you know, at least my response with him was like, well, thank you for not doing that. That, you know, I was happy how I played it with him was I was happy that he held. It was a little bit of goodwill towards me because I was expecting him to bounce. He hadn't lied to me like he had to Max. So I was I had a decision to make at that point. Max had actually supported me, so he built goodwill, and France had kind of just sat by himself. And so I was definitely leaning then towards Germany, towards Max. But what ultimately sealed the deal, and I don't remember, Max, who came up with the idea about building two fleets and you building two armies. But for me, when he said, "Hey, I'll do armies," and I was going to do fleets, that was good with me because that would give me more flexibility to attack France, and we would just go right in on it. I don't remember who. Did I mention the armies to you, or did you mention them to me?
Well, I think we discussed. I mean, I obviously pushed for two fleets for you, and I think you suggested two armies, and we both complied. And you know that sealed the deal for me. You know, every time I see Fleet Liverpool as England in one build, I'm good to ally with England at that time, you know. And just to support your point about Burgundy, he said he wanted to have play in Belgium, and I said, well, move to Picardy then if you want to, and I have no problem with that. And you know, he still moved to Burgundy. So I mean, you know, like you need to sort of understand that early decisions affect all later game, and you know, when there are other alternative better options, even though you don't lie, it doesn't mean you pick up an ally by not lying.
Yeah. Well,
so,
Mike, so when
did you guys hold on? Did you guys agree together on bouncing Russia, or Max, was that your decision alone?
That was, in fact, difficult. So I early on briefly talked to Austria. They arranged, I forgot, was it a bounce in the spring in Galicia or whatever, but basically it was not violated. I was actually kind of supposed to give Sweden to Russia. But, you know, at this time, I was looking at the map and I was pretty sure, you know, that Russia will get Romania. And, you know, I was hesitating until the last moment. And so this was my second move. And, you know, I'm not playing. This was my first game on Backstabber besides the final. And, you know, you have to click there, like not just moves. You have to click in the provinces and make sure you don't screw up. I actually went back and forth in bouncing him, but decided it's better if we're going with England. I thought it's better to bounce off Sweden and then occupy Scandinavia. Like basically, I was thinking to go to Baltic and sort of secure the position, and I took a risk. I was a little bit like I don't remember exactly what I said to Russia, but he obviously expected me not to bounce, and that sort of precipitated. I knew wasn't ideal because I knew England is honest with Russia, and so I'm losing some of the goodwill with him, and that sort of was important in the later stages of the game. But it was my decision, I thought.
All right.
Yeah,
So
I don't remember that. I don't remember if I pushed Max to do that or not. I mean, it sounds like something I would do. I don't remember, but it did end up being, I think, really actually somewhat good for both of us in a sense, because I was able to really push with Russia, hey, let's just demilitarize this whole situation, which we can actually probably move now to the spring moves. So I really pushed with him. Like what I said to him was like, look.
You demilitarize and then move to Sweden.
Right. Well, I'm talking about demilitarizing Norway. And as I recall, I think this was something that happened in Max's finals that I kind of liked. So I've actually used it in both virtual tournaments where I basically, well, of course, in the last one, Russia wouldn't make that deal. And so Germany supported me in anyway. But I basically just told Russia, I go, look, Germany's going to support me in any way. There's no reason for you to fight this. If I move to Sweden and you put your fleet in St. Petersburg, me and you don't have to fight at all for the entire game, and we can focus in the south and do our own thing. So Russia was pretty cool with that. And then Max moved to Baltic, and we're going to end up hanging out there for a few years, as I recall. And we just kind of were able to, well, I should say I focused on it. There's going to come a time where Max doesn't focus right away. But at least in the north, I didn't really worry about anything from Russia.
Okay, Max, and from your perspective here on the Spring 02 moves.
I meant to occupy Baltic Sea. That's a very important defensive position. And basically, I was hoping that support is not needed. Yeah, I think I've heard that England told Russia that I'm going to support Norway to Sweden, and Russia said he is not moving to Sweden or Baltic. So I just moved to defend. He was not super happy about it, but I think at that time he was okay. He was in a good position in the south, and he was making gains, and I think they were about to kill Turkey. So he was okay for a while to not escalate, and that was okay. And yeah, we will talk. I know Umble refers to the next moves I made, and we can talk about them. But basically here, I put a good defensive position, and I took Burgundy, which was basically the plan.
Yeah, we were trucking. So that spring move, we're setting everything up. We're moving right along to take down Russia, and we're just textbook moving. And
you mean France? Take down France.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Take down France. And everything is just like textbook. We're guessing everything right. And because Germany moved to Baltic, I'm going to move my fleet out of the North Sea, and we're going all in.
Okay. Anything you want to say before I flip to the fall?
Nope. We're all good.
All right.
And this
looks to me, and I haven't looked at your game at all, but tell us what happens there in Burgundy.
So this was the breakdown.
Obviously gave up your position. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so Max doesn't tell me anything about this. I'm talking with Russia. I say, you know what? I said, and of course, Max was my ally. But what I'm telling Russia to kind of just get him to be calmed down, I said, if Germany ever tries to attack you, I'm going to be able to tell you. And I'm telling this right before the fall moves, and he's like, okay, yeah, I trust you. And, I'm setting up to take France. There's no way I can take France without German help. And all of a sudden the fall moves go through, and I see that he convoys, that he moves to Silesia. He basically leaves he basically leaves me to try to crack the nut of France myself. And there's, of course, no way I'm going to be able to really do that with any type of speed. And the first person I talked to was Russia. I immediately DM'd him. I said, look, man, I had no idea that he was doing this, and I wouldn't have wanted him to do it. On top of that, I think even in the live stream, they're like, England cannot be happy about that. And I wasn't. I wasn't happy because he didn't tell me about it. And two, it was completely leaving our entire game plan.
Max, you're a self-described logical player. Tell me what you were thinking and the logic behind it.
So the logic was as follows. I was unable to make any gains in France. The Burgundy unit was very likely to be destroyed, at least pushed out of Burgundy. And I reasoned that I can either rebuild that unit or retreat to Ruhr, and decided to take an opportunity because I saw there is a chance Russia will not cover Livonia, and that will be a good position to have gains in St. Petersburg and Warsaw later on. So I did not tell Umble, England, because I decided that on the last minute. And now in retrospect, I understand he got very concerned. I did not imply by this move that I am trying to betray him or I'm not committed against France, because as you can see, there are 3 English fleets and only 2 French. So I reasoned that he can definitely break into Mao, and he's looking into great gains. So I needed to equalize the position. So I needed to have some gains myself. Otherwise, I become basically, only have a role of like apprentice. He's like a Sith Lord, and I'm his apprentice, and never.
Well, that's the position he wants you to be in.
No.
He thought it was, but I'm looking also to make sure we are more on equal terms, because as you will see, he will attack me later, and in fact, same happens in the second game. I wasn't England or Germany, but England attacked Germany in my second game exactly in the same way Umble will do here. Germany is very vulnerable in the mid game unless he is a little bit stronger than England. And these 3 fleets can quickly rotate. So I figured Umble will not rotate them because he had 3 fleets, 100% opportunity to get into Mao, Western Mediterranean, establish good position. All I wanted to do is help him and use a little bit of opportunity to gain a good position on Russia. It clearly failed because he bounced Livonia. But, if I were to get there, I would have had decent options there, moving forward, especially if Sweden can move to Norway. We can start thinking about St. Petersburg and things like that. So
you could have retreated to Belgium, but you didn't do that.
Yes, I didn't do that because by no means I meant to break alliance. Yes, I understand that England won't like it, but I reasoned it will not be enough to sort of betray me or, change tactic drastically. And, we can discuss how much this influenced the later decision. I think it had zero, reason to influence it because he stabbed me in the right moment just for the win. It probably, my move here probably had very little to do with that decision, but I'm happy to discuss it. Of course, I don't know for sure.
No, I didn't like write Max off or anything. I wasn't so much the move to Russia. It was just that without discussing it, I could have maybe worked to find out, what was going on with Livonia, perhaps. But yeah, I mean, if it would have worked out, that would have been really good for you. It just, Russia was on top of it, and he saw the possibility, and he, in retrospect too, he should have definitely seen that coming, right? You got the move to Baltic, you're set up to convoy, so I think the better move, honestly, if you were going for that, would have been to convoy to Prussia, because Livonia, any experienced player is going to see that coming, right?
Well, that's right. To be honest here, and I think I did tell you in the game, I decided like literally last minute, so there is no extra time to tell you. So the plan was not to sort of secretly do it and make you mad or anything like that. The plan was to do it in the last minute, and if there was extra minute or 2, I would have told you that. So perhaps I should have quickly tell you, but I was very careful to enter orders in Backstabber, and that was my priority, to sort of not mess up any orders. And it really was. And so for that reason, I didn't text you. Maybe what I should have done, as this, this kind of tournament allows, is also to quickly text on the side. You can be in a room talking with one person, and you can text, the message in Discord to the other. That's what I probably could have done. So to ease you a little bit. But, I obviously did not want you to relate that to Russia. So the way you're telling me now, you were, talking to him, I wouldn't have wanted you to tell him, oh, you know what, Germany would move on you. So perhaps smart choice would have been to tell you the last moment so that you don't have extra time to tell Russia.
Well, I don't think I would have told him, but I had told Russia that if I knew something, I would let him know. I don't think I would have told him, though, because I was especially at this point, I was perfectly fine with, you growing. So I don't think I would have told him. I would have probably said to him I didn't know, just like, what was actually happening. But I don't think I would have told him. I didn't really have any big reason to want to limit you, and Russia was making good gains in the South. So in some ways, I would have been pretty supportive if we had planned it out, how it was going to work. I would have been good with it.
So,
but the other issue,
right.
too, though.
Oh, go ahead.
The other,
go ahead.
The other issue there too, you're making a move on Russia where you actually can't get any builds that year. You're not making the move in the spring, you're making it in the fall. So he's actually going to be able to build in Warsaw in the spring. So I think you probably tried that a season too early.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. So to be fair, this time I was frantically looking how much time was left, and friends. So one of the mistakes, and I didn't talk about it in the beginning, and thank you, Umble, for telling me that actually many players simply waste your time. France was this type. All he kept saying, oh, can you stop attacking me? Can you stop attacking me? He never sort of offered anything. I know there was little he could offer, but I should not have lingered in rooms with him at all, because that wasted my time. And given I wasn't very experienced and quick in things, it's really negatively affected my first couple years. So what you have to do, you have to be assertive, very polite, quickly come in the room, get the person you want to talk to, go to the other room, talk to that person, kind of linger until they, tell you something, quick but polite, and, comprise quick proposals, clear, quick, good proposals. Once rejected, never linger, move on to new proposal or new person to talk to, and again, if somebody comes in, quickly address him. Don't let them linger in your chat, quickly address them politely. And if it's an important person, go talk to him, or no, if not, then politely ask to leave. So these are all good suggestions. And, Umble was actually really good at sort of pointing this out, and some other folks in the second game as well. So I'm still learning, and especially this couple years. In fact, you make a really good point. Why did I move in the fall to Livonia and Silesia? That did not make a whole lot of sense. And I agree looking now. So perhaps that's not the best, but when you have 15 minutes and, first time, you sort of sometimes in the moment forget that it's a fall move, if I might say that.
I sort of, in the backstabber format, I in these virtual tournaments, as soon as the moves go through, I give myself a minute to look at the map. I give myself a minute to enter in order so I don't default. And then those change as I then talk to people. I found that to be helpful. But my fear is I'm not going to get orders in. Of course, that did happen at one point in my second game. So I didn't live up to my own advice. I think we got to move on a bit.
Well,
go ahead.
Let me mention one thing. Yeah, so Max is mentioning that is really, really good, because time management is super important, because you don't have 24 hours or luxury like that. Every minute counts. So with France, he came to me probably the first time, and he was like, okay, what can we do here? And I said, I built 2 fleets. I said, I've obviously committed myself against this. I said, your best bet is to defend. I said, if you can stop me, then, that might create some other opportunities there. But I said, your best bet here is to defend. And so I really didn't waste any more time. He didn't really waste my time, because he knew there's nothing else I can really do. I built the fleets. I'm coming for him. And I'm very much somebody that I stick to the plan unless it fails. And so, yeah, you've got to be able to turn people off. And a lot of newer players feel like the other person should dictate their time, and whoever wants to talk to you should, but that shouldn't be it. You should definitely be setting up the people you need to talk to and setting up a priority too, because if not, you're going to be behind. You're not going to get all the information you need to get each turn.
Yeah, but that's sometimes easier said than done, especially when you see people who are talking you need to talk to in different rooms talking to other people. So sometimes you kind of have to figure out how to manage that. That's the thing everyone's going to have to learn. I don't even need to look. I know you're building an army London, I think. Let's guess. Yep, you build the army. And then Russia builds in Warsaw. That's to be expected. Turkey's on the ropes.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't really have to build that army. I didn't really have to build that army because there wasn't a lot I could do, but an army was what was going to be needed next. But I wasn't going to be able to really use that army for anything until a little bit later. And you're going to see here my unit gets destroyed. And some of the reason all of this happened, right, was because Max moved away and didn't move those units in position. So that whole unit gets destroyed there in Picardy.
Because Belgium had been bounced by Burgundy and Holland and it couldn't retreat there.
Right. So, and I told Max to move there, though. Max wasn't like being opportunistic. I said, move to Belgium. I said, it's better, we don't want him getting in there and we'll figure it out the next turn. So I told him to move there.
Yeah.
And yeah.
All right. So Max, you recommit back to France and I guess away from Russia. You must have had some conversation because you got to defend Munich at this point.
Yeah, I think I remember we had a conversation that I should build in Munich, but somehow there was a lot of time wasted and I did not really have time to refresh for Munich army build because for some reason the initial conversation was Berlin is fine because I wasn't sure at that time if Russia would be attacking me, but it became super clear that he's fine and likely involved still in the south. And I meant to build in Munich, so that's why I had to sort of reposition. I know it seems to England a little bit annoying, a little bit time wasted, but I think strategically I was doing the right thing here because also my interest is to make sure we are equally growing, not England taking all the France before I could get there. Because you'll see it later. I was not able to even get Marseille because we had to give it to Italy. And as you can see, Italy was, he was an inexperienced player, but Austria took him under his wing, so to speak, gave him 3 years. They killed Turkey, 3 of them. And, it was clear that Austria or Russia will be strong and likely in Vienna, the orders for Italy could be written or at least heavily suggested. So at that time, I kept getting reports that Austria wants to split Germany. I'm like, wow, that's good. And so I talked to Russia a long time because as you can see, Austria is set for 2 builds here, Trieste and Caen. And so idea was Russia could totally block him. If he orders, first of all, Trieste has to stay there because it's retaken. And if Galicia orders to Budapest or Vienna, and if the guess is right, then Austria is crippled. And so I suggested some of that sort, and I'm happy Russia acted on this, in fact. And Austria was actually in danger. He, I think, was at 4 after this move because Russia acted really great. Well, I mean, I thought because I didn't know why, but Austria was not talking to me a lot. In fact, he had some problems with audio early on. And so I've heard from several players that he's really talking to split Germany. And so I preferred at that time to sort of deal with Russia, sort of, I thought the thought process here would be to split France, and with fleets into Mediterranean from England, I could focus on Russia or in the middle of the map, depending how England prefers to sort of position it. So that was my initial thought here.
So let's look at the fall moves. Okay, Umble, you get into the Western Med.
Mm-hmm.
You have dominant fleet position. Germany, you get support into Tyrolia, and you take Belgium, I assume, with England knowing that.
Yeah. Yep. I told him, I said, go ahead and take it. It's better you getting it than France. And sure, there was some ways we could have worked it out so that there was a bounce, but I didn't really think about it. We probably could have done something, but I was really focused on the whole mid-Atlantic, and we probably could have set something up so that I didn't lose it, but I don't know. I had almost written it. I think I'd written it off pretty much in spring. So I just told him, go ahead, support in, get it. And
you're getting a build back, because you had the army in Picardy was destroyed.
Right. So there's no build, but everything stays the same. And so now
Right.
I think, are we the same or did you go up? I think we're the same, right?
I think I'm up one, right? Because I'm building
Up
Belgium.
one.
Yeah, that's right. So you're actually bigger than me at this point.
Yeah.
You build in Berlin because I suspect you knew where Russia was going to build. That makes sense.
Well, Russia was building two, and he built two armies, which was expected. Yeah.
You were in Munich. I mean, all right. Okay. Spring 1904. Back in Burgundy. Take the Mid-Atlantic. Umble's back in Belgium. Russia and Germany fighting. That's what I see quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, everything's going good here, and I'm starting to develop a relationship with Italy. And I think I probably did about a year before. And I told him, I said, look, man, I'm not going to Tunis. I'm going to move out of Western Mediterranean. Don't lose your position. But sometimes being a newer player, you don't see the strategy, and you're just thinking like individual
I'm
dots.
vulnerable. I'm vulnerable. He can take Tunis.
So, you're not sitting there thinking, okay, why is he going to attack me in France at the same time? And especially, hopefully with the conversations, he'd realize that, this wasn't my first game or anything. But he kind of wastes his move there. And, I tell him, look, I'm not going to do that. And at this point, obviously, now France is in a very perilous position. He's in trouble. And he knows that. And what we're going to have here, I haven't told Max this, but me and him do have a pretty good conversation here in the fall.
Okay, so should I turn to the fall moves, or Max, do you have anything to add at this point?
No, I mean, yep, I agree with all that.
So you'll notice I don't stick around in Belgium. I move out. I support myself out. I'm not trying. I'm sure I could have taken it, but then I start to seem greedy. I told France this. I said, you obviously have a decision here. I said, you can block me or you can block Germany.
Correct.
I said, you already know what's about to happen. You can block one of us. I said, if you block me, I said, that's fine. I understand that. I said, but if you don't, I said, what we're talking about here is getting rid of your fleets, and you can become an army power, and we might have a way forward. Now, is that a great promise? Not really, but I guess he felt
You're
like
basically telling him you have to give me Spain, and we might be able to work together. I mean, the Iberian Peninsula, right? Because you got to get Portugal too.
Yeah, I said, well, I can become the fleets here, and I probably said something like, at some point maybe I'm going to hit Germany and that can change some things. But, with the way I play, it's always dangerous to leave somebody alive that you've attacked previously, even if they're at one center, because they have no loyalty to you. So I was pretty committed with him going out, but I just put it before him. I go, it's going to be your choice, what to do. And so he decided to block. He decided to block here Germany, and you can see Germany and Russia are kind of doing their thing too. So that build would have probably really helped him. But as it was, I got it. And I actually had told him this. I actually told France to bounce me in Picardy. I said, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to bounce me in Picardy so I get Belgium and block them. Now, he doesn't bounce me in Picardy, so I don't know if he forgot or what that was all about. But I believe I told him I wanted to do that so I would get Belgium without looking like I was greedy.
Yeah.
Are you sure you did that? You didn't say support. I mean, you don't want it's a fleet there in Picardy, right? He could have ordered Brest support Picardy, and that fleet would be gone.
I probably said that. That's what I probably said. I probably said support Picardy. That's probably what I said. Yeah, I said support it so that I will go back to Belgium. And I'm sure Max probably assumed that he was going to lose that, but he doesn't support it for whatever reason. I'm not sure what his thought process was with moving to the English Channel. Maybe he thought that I was going to move out. I don't know what that was all about, but Max gets to keep the unit, which is fine.
I think the thought process was you will take Mao, Spain, and English Channel to Mao, and he would occupy English Channel.
Yeah, no, I wasn't going to do that. I wasn't doing that.
I think I agree with your analysis. From my point of view, yeah, friends told me that England came to me, said this, blah, blah. And I said, well, yeah, bounce me, that's fine. And he did. The problem you described as Belgium, I was okay to lose it. It was your center. But I think in retrospect, it was helpful to you that France did not bounce because, you had me 100%. Well, that France did not support whole Picardy because I would become suspicious. Like right. I would be okay, but I would become very suspicious. I would see English tactics there. And since I did not become suspicious, I did not see your stab coming very well. So that's, I think, worked really well to your advantage here. But I would not recommend doing that next time as well because players may become suspicious, because breadth support in Picardy is not something typical to order in this situation, like why would you do that? So as France. So, and
yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Hey, Max, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
If you had this conversation with Germany that you're moving to Marseille and, you can bounce me or bounce England, why don't you move to Gascony with Burgundy and take both Burgundy and Gascony?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think at this time I did not want to take a chance because France could also lie and bounce England instead to preserve himself. I wanted to be 100% with England. He already raised that concern of this Russian move. I did not want to trigger any thoughts in his mind that I'm not with him, So he told me to go to Marseille, and that's exactly what I did. Because, France could have just bounced Spain instead, and me not going, it would be really stupid, in fact. Think about it, right?
We wanted to make sure he lost one here. Exactly, that was really good.
Exactly.
I see. Yeah, okay. I got you. All right. So, Umble, you get a build. Build's another army, not surprising. But Russia had a bad season, and disbands too.
Yeah. Well, my real success here was Italy building an army. That was my real success.
How did you do that?
Well, I told him, I said, look, I supported back to Spain. Me and you aren't trying to attack each other. You already have 3 fleets. You don't need a 4th. I said, build an army. You're going to need that. You've seen how because Austria took back Trieste and, that wasn't agreed on or something like that. And so I said, if you build an army, we'll get you into Marseille. And that may have been, it probably was all of that because I'd already been pushing them that way to come so we could take out France. And what you're about to see is France go from 4 to 0. And so it's quite the takedown. But no, my real little bit of my great little win was him building that army because, Austria is going to look at that too, and he's going to be like, wait a minute, why does he need another army? What's he going to be doing with that? So I was very, very happy with to put that together.
It's interesting.
I'm sure you were. Go ahead, Max.
Yeah. Italy actually came to me and asked, he told me, England wants me to build army. And what do you think? And I actually supported that decision. I said, yeah, that's a great idea for sure. And yes, he related this Marseille. And I said, yes, one of us will support you in, I think, build an army. So I guess maybe in retrospect, I should have been a little bit more careful here, because, there's a stop coming, we can discuss. But at that time, again, because England raised the concern about Russian move, I wanted to project for sure. And I meant to actually stay with England anyway. So, and I think I helped with that decision. Not sure, maybe Italy already decided for the army, but I certainly supported that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So let's move and see the takedown of France.
Right.
You do. This can't be helped. I'm sure Max doesn't really want Italy and Marseille, but okay, fine. You need Italy at this point. Brest is gone. Marseille's gone. Everything's going to plan. And Max, you and Russia are still fighting, but now you're getting a little leverage on St. Petersburg, I guess.
Well, I was supposed to move to Norway here, but Max didn't like come and talk to me till like the last minute. And so I didn't get the move. I didn't get the move in because I would have been fine with him getting St. Petersburg, though probably in retrospect, it would have probably been good if he maybe left that option for me to convoy an army over there. But regardless, I was planning for me, him not having that build spot there. So I was it didn't happen to the last minute, and it probably was good long term for me though that Germany didn't get that build because I think it's going to be the year after this. It's going to be the next year that I attack him. But it just didn't get in enough time. I didn't lie to Max or anything. There wasn't enough time to get it in.
Yeah.
All right, fall 19. Oh, go ahead, Max.
No, I mean, I believe that it was kind of late, and that's probably also my fault coming so late with that idea to take St. Petersburg. I believed you there. My comment here is, I think what you did right was, you never lied to Russia. So basically, despite that we were fighting Russia and Germany, you had very good relations with Russia, and you never lied to France. So as a result, as you can see, France went from 4 to 0. Paris was not guaranteed at all. I mean, I'm thankful at least I got in because I needed that build. And France could have actually, we had Marseille tap Gascony, or Gascony just could have tapped Brest, and, I would have not gotten Paris. I think France just gave up, and he could have definitely prevented Germany from any benefit, which he could have done because, he probably was more mad at me than England because, England was really good at having sort of good relations. So, at least you attack, you talk a little bit, don't lie, just never sort of be always polite, so to speak, while attacking. And so I definitely did not cultivate that with neither France nor Russia.
Well, and that's the hard thing with the time limit because I've not quite got myself to peak performance in connecting with people as much as I want to. This game though was a success because I had connected really well with Italy, and Russia. So I'm still not great at it, Max. I'm getting better at it, but being able to cultivate those mid-game alliances are just really, really key. And yeah, me and Russia hit it off. We were good. We would talk some, but I would always just reassure him, go, look, man, I'm not looking for any kind of battle in the north. If you and and originally I think I said, if I'm in Sweden, you're in St. Petersburg, me and you will never fight the whole game. And I didn't really have any great plans for hitting him, though that could have changed. But yeah, like Max is saying, I felt like this game was, it's probably the best game I've played of all the virtual tournaments as far as with just the diplomacy side.
All right, so let's look at what happens.
Right.
Okay, and then
I just make these builds, and me and Max Max was not concerned at all with these builds. And I think in a 24-hour time frame, we would have really discussed what these builds were going to do before I ever put them in. I don't know. What were your thoughts when I built a fleet in Edinburgh and an army in Liverpool?
Well, to be honest, I was focused on talking to Russia a lot and some to Austria at that time because, as you can see, Austria had these armies there and, came back from 4 centers. And I basically, in retrospect, I can easily say I failed to discuss them with you. But, my plan was simple. If I were to get 2 builds, which was St. Petersburg and Warsaw, which I was trying to set up, I could have defended from you if you not attacked right now. And that was sort of my idea to repel attack. I was hoping it won't come at this time. And, sort of, I didn't discuss it in the hopes that you won't attack. That probably was a mistake.
Yeah. Well, also, we had a conversation, and I said, okay, what's next? Now, I would have probably still attacked you regardless, I'm sure that's what I would have ended up doing because it was right there to do, because this was going to give me a solo opportunity. Now, I'm not sure, the scoring system plays a little bit into that, because this isn't a draw-based scoring system, it's a ranking-based. As obviously I've accomplished everything I need to do. And so the next question then is, what is next? And so, Germany is taking St. Petersburg. And I mentioned about going and attacking Italy. And I remember you saying, no, we can't, we need to let him live for a little bit. And I would have probably still attacked Germany anyway, but from that conversation in my mind, well, okay, the only way I'm going to continue to grow is by attacking Germany.
Well, see, you said yourself this conversation was irrelevant, and I would rather believe your first saying. I mean, I think it's a huge mistake on my part. I'm now looking, why did I hold in Paris and Burgundy? I should have ordered Burgundy to Belgium and Kiel to Holland. That was supposed to be a good move for me. And I think I've lost only one center to you. I might have grabbed two or at least one. Because, I also moved out Munich, and that was downhill from there for me because Austria took Munich. That was really the downside for me here as well. I mean, so to be honest, the time was still, we're talking here already analyzed and, we can have some time. In reality, I still talk to Russia, I still talk to Austria, and I try to cultivate myself some relations with Italy because I also wanted good result. So, in that time, I failed to really grasp the danger of England. Like, I was sort of, like what I told you, right? This Belgium move convinced me that you are not sort of, planning to stop that soon. Well, which is 1906, but still, if you were to tell France to support whole Picardy, I would have been much more suspicious. And I probably would have ordered Burgundy to Belgium and Kiel to Holland. So in retrospect, that was great for you. He did not follow your advice there. That's what I think as me playing. Probably some other Germans say, oh, it's irrelevant at all. But, I think for you, it was really great he didn't follow that idea of yours.
Yeah. Well, and so Russia now is getting to a point where I've not attacked him. He can see that he's being attacked by a few different people. So he's kind of on board with, and as we go into the fall, he's on board with, hey, because you'll see he even supports me to St. Petersburg. He didn't put up a great defense that in the spring. And so because of that, he's now going to be losing two units at least. I think Austria stabbing you here in Munich was a mistake though, because this was just a dot grab. There was nothing here that ultimately, in my opinion, benefited him. So I think that was probably a mistake to do, because he should have saw, okay, I'm making my move on Germany. But he just went ahead and took Munich, and that was not. Right now I'm just going into textbook English, grabbing half the board. So I don't take Belgium. I move to Holland. Because that's going to be a better place for convoying. I build 2 armies. I've convoyed to Denmark, so I think I'm at 10 now, right?
Yes, and you're ahead of Austria, who's got 8 with it, and you've got Italy on your side at 7.
Yeah. So now, what's your conversations like now? Because let me say this: after I stabbed him in spring and I moved in, I had that conversation with Max. I got with him and I just told him, look, man, you're a great guy. It's not something that
It's not you, it's me.
Yeah. It was one of those things that it's hard to have that conversation because we had worked so well together. It's not something that, I naturally, you're trying to play a game, but you still are crushing somebody's spirits. So it's not the most fun part of diplomacy at the moment. That the great thing about diplomacy is once you're off the board, people are generally good. But in the middle of it, and me feeling bad about it actually made me slow down a little bit, because there was 2 more centers I could have grabbed at the end of the game. But I had that conversation, and Max took it pretty well. I could tell he was kind of shook up a little bit about it. At least that's how I felt. I don't know. You can tell me how the stab was.
No, I mean, now I think it was perfectly fine as the game progressed. I mean, I obviously did not see it coming. As part of it was fast-paced game. Like I mentioned already, you did exactly what, sort of Sith Lord would do. When apprentice is no longer needed, you kill him. Except me, you sort of kind of raised me a little bit as a chicken, but left my head in Berlin open, but cut all the wings and legs. It's fine. It's the nature of diplomacy. I mean, I was not, sort of upset or anything, because that game was actually enjoyable, because, I had good conversations with many countries and felt really like part of the team I mean all 7 players, well, perhaps maybe minus Turkey. And, I actually did not get same feeling in the next game I played. And so despite the stab, I think it was a good game, and I feel like I did many decent things, and I, of course, made some mistakes. But as England, I think you played almost textbook England. That was pretty good. You kept good relations with most players you needed to keep good relations with. You stabbed in the right moment. This 15 minutes phase helped you, like what you mentioned about these builds. It helped you to sort of evade unnecessary conversation about this, long, lengthy conversations which could happen during like 24 or 2-day phases online. You basically did what you had to do and you executed it perfectly. I'm not sure which 2 centers you mean. I think you could have taken St. Petersburg at the end. That's probably it.
Well, we'll see it.
Well, let's
We'll see
here. Let's
Yep.
look.
So let me say something too while you're changing that up. For those that are listening, I appreciate Max's, what Max is saying, but I am not a Sith Lord. Okay. So I'm a good ally, but if somebody gives me a solo opportunity like anybody else, I'm gonna go for it. But I don't dot grab people. You can see I gave Belgium. I'm not a Sith Lord. If you see me on the board, you need to look at me more like I would say more like Anakin before he turned bad.
No. You're always evil. Max, at this point, though, at the end of 07, look, you've got to be worried about England soloing, but yet you guys are still fighting. I mean, England and Austria seem to be working together. I'm like, what's happening?
Well, I don't think what you mean, we fighting, you mean me and Austria? Well, Austria, I obviously did not like the Munich, right? Because it's actually crippled me even more. Umble said it was a mistake. I don't think so, because he established his second place position there. And, most players here play for dots, in the end, especially for because he became second and that's what he wanted to do. He basically probably was never going to leave Munich, and he followed with Tyrolia. So it wasn't dot grabbing, because he followed with Tyrolia. So he had at least 2 units there and quickly became 3 and 4. So he knew what he was doing. He told me to remove Silesia. But, he never ever talked to me during this game for whatever reason. Even I tried a couple times, except 1901. So I wasn't sure. So I tried to talk to Umble a little bit to understand if I can sort of, still keep some of my dots and establish position and maybe retake Munich. And he honestly told me, no, he will keep attacking me. That's what I expected anyway. But, it's important, and I want to point it out for, other sort of experienced players. It's actually important to be honest, because you keep good relationships for future games, because I have no hard feelings. And it's important to sort of explain that it's not good idea to be arrogant or silent. It never helps you in the long run, Like it's okay to attack someone and still talk to that person and perhaps explain certain moves or even give some tips or whatever. If that's also veteran, talk about some previous times you had together, whatever. But it's never a good idea to sort of be arrogant at that time. And actually, I give Umble a lot of credit that he wasn't. And, that was a good plan from him to sort of, keep attacking, but, still talk. And he did talk to me. So I removed Paris because I couldn't defend it in the long run, and I wanted to keep some of my home centers. And so Austria told me, hey, go to Moscow from Warsaw with support and support me to Warsaw, and I will cover it and help you defend, Berlin and Kiel, but Kiel will probably be lost, but at least Berlin. And I said, yes, fine. And we talked, 3 of us, Italy, Austria, and Germany, for a long, long, long time to make sure Italy doesn't do something funny, and for a little bit he did, but then he moved fleets as expected to prevent Solo, and that was it.
Well, and I think you're right. I think you're right, Max, there on with Austria. That's a good point. So the fall was the moment that I should have made and went to Western Mediterranean and North Africa. If I was going to solo, which I may still not have done it, it's probably likely that I wouldn't have been able to pull it off, but not moving there right now was going to guarantee my defeat.
Because they can hold the line.
I agree.
Right. I am going to move in there, but the problem is they're going to have loaded up too many fleets for me to make progress. Because I'll move in the spring, but I needed to move in the fall, and I just didn't. I just didn't put it together. I didn't plan that far out, and I should have. In a perfect world, I would have, but that kind of experience, I don't know if it would have got me a solo or not, but it would have made it a possibility. So everything else, I'm just moving right along. The putting all my units where I kind of need them to be. I don't have much of anything to say on the next parts.
The rest of it just sort of plays out to where you top the board.
Yeah.
Let's see. What do you end at?
Well, let's go back one. Let's go to spring. So here, the whole board's like, come on, let's stop. Let's just go ahead and call a draw. You're not going to get a solo. And I was like, well, I said, I want to play another year. I said, last tournament, I ended early and it cost me getting third place. I said, I want to maximize my center count going into this. It was about that time that Max yelled out, Max, I could hear him over everybody else. He goes, because I'm not happy. So that didn't make me feel too great.
No, because let me tell you why. If you want to scroll forward then, because I only had Berlin, Moscow, and St. Petersburg. So if you were to take St. Petersburg, Austria could have taken the other two. So I just wanted to survive. It wasn't about St. Pete Center per se, but what I didn't like in your style is you kept saying, oh, guarantee, I give my word, basically, it's 1 year. And after 1 year played, you said, oh, no. Now I give my word, I take St. Petersburg, and that's it. So you should have probably more clear, say, without any specification how many years that you want to maximize, because you were sort of a little bit disingenuous there. And that's what people picked up, because you said clearly, you 10 times repeated, we'll play 1 more year and we'll draw. And
I think I said it another way. I think I said, let's play another year. I don't think I said we're going to only play one. I said, let's play out another year. Because I felt like I was being pretty clear, like, hey, no, let's just play another year and we'll see where we're at. Because that's what I was trying to convey.
Okay, yeah. I mean, maybe it wasn't clear to me. It sounded like you said, we'll play 1 more year and we'll draw at the end of it if you don't see solo opportunity. And so then you sort of came back with, oh, I looked again and I will take St. Petersburg and then we will draw. So that's what I meant I didn't like, because I immediately saw, oh, I'm going to probably be out because Austria will probably grab Berlin.
So Austria makes a mistake here, because by leaving Prussia, I would now have an opportunity to get Berlin. Does it go one more, or is that the last one? Do we draw in the spring, after the spring?
I think last one. Yeah, I think that's the one we draw. We drew here.
Yeah. Okay. So he's left there, right? So he's left that place, and so now I can put enough units on there to break that support, right? Because if he's not in Prussia, he's only got one actual one on it. So I've got some options with how to attack, like with either convoying, but I definitely could have taken St. Petersburg. So that's right there. You can always force St. Petersburg as England if you put enough units on it. And that was my plan. And then
you can cut Munich and you can take Berlin with the other. Oh wait, never mind.
But
sorry.
I could get into position to begin to bounce some units back, and perhaps there was something there. But regardless, I can take St. Petersburg, and that's kind of the last. The only other thing maybe is I could have tried to play it another year and see if they made some kind of mistake, but the line was pretty solid here, and the only thing left to grab was St. Petersburg, and I felt, I stopped and I remembered what Max had said, how he was not happy. And so I said, okay, guys, I'm not going to grab St. Petersburg. Let's draw.
But
And
Max also said in his interview, the prior interview, that he learned sometimes he has to be a butcher.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, that's actually Umble just said something about France in this podcast, that you prefer to kill him off anyway, just because it doesn't really work out later in the game, usually if you attack someone. And that's exactly how it was in the final when I let Austria alive.
Yeah.
So,
right.
All right. Anything more you guys want to say about this game?
It got me best England. It was, I believe, Russia. There was a Russian topping of the board at 17 centers, but I think he actually had a solo. He just, didn't take it. But then there was also an Austrian solo. But beside those two out of the 14 games, I think that was, as I recall, that was the biggest board top. I feel besides making those fleet moves of just a season early, or I should say a season late, I was pretty happy with how that whole game went. I felt I was patient, and I enjoyed playing with Max, and I definitely think, now with him having one of these tournaments under his belt, especially, I think he's only going to continue to get better and better in this format.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. Max, any final comments?
Yeah, I hope, Umble, you're right. I'm not so sure, because, you need to be really talkative and like kind of interesting, funny. And I'm not sure I have enough of that charisma. But I do have one final question for you, Umble. So considering Austria's solo was, due to some sort of lack of movement on France, why didn't you just keep playing here? Like, I know I said I didn't like it, but, it should not have been a reason for you stopping, because I feel like you could have gotten solo here, considering Italy, you might have just not ordered some support holes or whatever. Like, that would have been sort of a more fair solo, so to speak, than the one Austria got, at least in my opinion.
Oh, well, yeah, for sure. I didn't have two people that let me put my units in all the blank places, because they went from 10 to 16. You don't go from 10 to 16 because you are the savant of diplomacy. You go from 10 to 16 because you have people on the board that can't see what's about to happen. But I had grinded this thing out to get to 14. There was, I believe, the biggest reason is I looked at the board and I thought, with competent players, there's no way I'm going to break that line. And to get to 18, so I'm at 14. I know I can get 15 with St. Petersburg, right? So where do those three centers come from? Well, I can't force Munich. You can see that they've got all the units they need for Munich. They've got their fleets in position now. Unless they made some big mistake, it wasn't going to happen. And we had an hour. My wife wants us to have dinner before I start this next game, and I don't. You guys looked solid enough that I only felt like I would probably get one more center from St. Petersburg. I didn't see myself getting more. Where would the next three come from? I just didn't see that, because even with loading up on fleets in the south, I mean, I've only got three there. So in my mind, I just didn't see it happening. I still don't see it happening, and it wasn't worth playing another hour and a half or two to explore that. In my mind, I felt like it was a conclusion.
All right. Well, thank you, Umble, and thank you, Max, for hopefully an entertaining episode where we got two viewpoints to talk about a game. And thank you to Diplomacy Briefing for sponsoring this podcast. I urge everyone to sign up at diplomacybriefing.com.